morning, students. We are doing the first chapter and the revision of the rights of nations in Europe. And we should start the topic today, the making of nationalism in Europe. In previous tutorial, I have explained you what happened after the French Revolution. The French revolutionaries, they had announced, they had proclaimed that they would struggle. They would also, their mission was to remove the autocracy or monarchical form of the government wherever that was in any part of Europe. So, you know that it was the French revolutionaries, they were afraid, they had given a threatening to other parts of Europe monarchs. Now, wherever the ideas of French revolutionaries that reached, the people became greatly impressed. And moreover, the civil code of France or Napoleonic civil code that had simplified the administrative system, and it also cancelled any kind of privilege based on birth, and right to property was given. So these rules, these codes, they were also very attractive, and the new group, the workers, the middle class, and the new merchants, they had enjoyed the newfound freedom. Means they had, they were very satisfied, they were happy, they had enjoyed the newfound freedom which were given by the civil code of France. Okay, as you know that in other parts of Europe, particularly the middle class, the students and the educated class, they were greatly impressed by the changes which were introduced in France. Now they had started making their secret societies or Jacobins, and they had started making they had started making the policies to fight, to struggle against the monarchical form of government. Now, however, the areas, whatever the areas which were conquered by the Napoleonic army, wherever the army reached, they were just like the harbingers. They had brought the new revolutionary ideas of France. Okay, now we shall do the making of nationalism in Europe. We shall see that what was the condition of the big countries of Europe. For example, Germany. And when we know today as Germany, Italy and Switzerland, they were not in the form of the country which they are today. Generally, these big countries, Germany, Switzerland, Italy, they were divided into kingdoms, duchies and cantons, and each part had their own autonomous rule. So, the Central Europe, Eastern and Central Europe, that were under autocratic monarchies within the territories of which lived diverse people. So these parts, the central and eastern part of Europe, they were under the control of autocratic monarchs, and in those territories different people were living. Different people belonging to different race, they were living there. So class, in this way we can see that actually they were the patchwork of different kinds of people and different territories. So such differences did not easily promote a sense of political unity. The only tie binding these diverse groups together was a common alliance to the emperor. Now class, we can understand that there were so many differences. The people, they belong to different social group, they belong to different race. So that's why there was not any, the political unity cannot be created among them. It was a great challenge for them. It was a big challenge for the revolutionaries to unite them. So there was a common alliance to the emperor. Now come on, the aristocracy and the new middle class. We shall see that in the process of making of nationalism in Europe, which group of society had played the crucial role, the important role in this field, in the making of nationalism. So first of all, we shall see about what was the position of the aristocracy and how the middle class emerged in the society, because we read that the middle class had played very important role, very crucial role in the formation of the making of nationalism in Europe. Okay, so the aristocracy, now we shall do that part 1, aristocracy and the new middle class. Yes class, when we will talk about aristocracy. Aristocracy means that a system that was controlled by the feudal lords, that is aristocracy. Now we shall see that socially and politically, a landed aristocracy was the dominant class in the continent, in all over Europe. In all over Europe, the dominant class of the society, that was the politically and landed aristocracy. Politically and landed aristocracy. It means that the group, the social group of the society which had large areas of land. The people who owned large areas of land, they were the owner of large areas of land, and they had also the political supremacy. They had also the political control, because they were the property people, they were the rich people, and they also had a hold over the politics. So the political and landed aristocracy, this group that was formed, aristocracy, that is actually the people who owned large areas of land and they had influence in the politics also, and they were the most dominant section of the society. They were the most powerful section of the society in all over Europe, not only in one part of Europe but in all over Europe. The members of this class were united by a common way of life that cut across regional division. Though they lived in different regions, but they had their common way of life. Either they were living in one part of Europe or another part of Europe, but their way of life, their luxurious life, that was almost same. They spoke French for purposes of diplomacy, and in high society, their families were often connected by ties of marriage. So, the aristocracy class, the aristocracy group, you know that they owned large areas of land, they were politically influential people, they were rich people, and they led luxurious lives. They had marriage alliances with each other's families, and they belonged to the high society, and moreover they spoke French language. They spoke French language not because they love French language, but because it was the symbol of aristocracy. It was the symbol of high society. Their families were often connected by ties of marriage, and this powerful aristocracy was, however, numerically a small group. The majority of the population was made up of peasantry to the west. Okay. Now, class, then you have read that this aristocracy, that they were very influential people, they were very powerful people. Though numerically they were very small group. They were very small group, means just like 20 or 10%. But and rest of the population, they were peasantry. They were peasantry means either they were the farmers, peasants, or landless workers. They led very poor life. So they formed the majority population. To the west, the bulk of the land was formed by tenants and small owners, while in eastern and central Europe, the pattern of landholding was characterized by the vast estates which were cultivated by serfs. Now, plus, to the western side, there were some small peasants, small landowners, farmers. To the east, most of the lands were owned by the landed aristocracy, and the workers, they worked on those lands, and they were the serfs. They were treated as the serfs or vandals. In western and parts of Central Europe, the growth of industrial production and trade meant the growth of towns and the emergence of commercial classes whose existence was based on population for the market. Then again, now in western part of Europe, during that period, during the medieval period, in western part of Europe, the industrial changes took place. The industrialization was started. As industrialization was started, a new social class emerged in the society, and that was the new working class. That was the new working class or the middle class that emerged in the society. In Central and Eastern Europe, these groups were smaller in number till late 19th century. Now class, just I have explained you, the industrialization was started first in western part of Europe, like in England, France. So the working class, the working middle class that emerged in western and western part of Europe first, and in central and eastern part of Europe, as industrialization was started late, so the working class also emerged late. Okay, what did liberal nationalism stand for? Now we shall read another point, that what did liberal nationalism stand for? A new section of society that emerged, and it was liberal nationalism. Liberal nationalism, a group of society, a group of people, particularly they were the middle class, the workers. They had started the ideas of national unity in early 19th century. Europe were closely allied to the ideology of liberalism. The term liberalism derives from the Latin word liber. Liber means freedom. For the new middle classes, liberalism stood for freedom for the individual and equality of all before the law. So, for the liberal nationalism, it meant that liberty, freedom from all kinds of exploitation, and freedom, equality before law. It means that every individual that should be treated equally before law. Now, this new section of society, they supported the liberal nationalism. Since the French Revolution, liberalism had stood for the end of autocracy and clerical privileges. A constitution and representative government through parliament. 19th century liberals also states that inviolability of private property. So this liberal nationalism that stand for the equality before law and the prohibition of all kinds of privileges that was prevailing before the French Revolution in the society. Okay. Now, equality before the law did not necessarily stand for universal suffrage. Now, class, though the liberal nationalists they claim for equality before law, but equality before law that doesn't mean that equal suffrage. As you have read that before the French Revolution, when the new constitution was framed, according to that constitution, only the property men were given right to suffrage, right to vote. So this liberal nationalism, they supported equality before law, and they also supported that there should be freedom from any kind of manorial dues, freedom in the in the field of business and trade and some other things. Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, women and non-propertied men organized opposition movements demanding equal political rights. As all men were not given equal suffrage, only the propertied men had right to vote. So throughout the 19th century, throughout the 19th century and early 20th century, women and non-propertied men they struggled for right to vote, but finally right to vote was given in the mid-20th century in all over world. In the economic sphere, liberalism stood for the freedom of market. Now class, you know that in the economic when we shall see that what liberal nationalism stands for the economic sphere, for the trade and business, and for the trade and business, for economic sphere, the liberal nationalism that stood for the freedom of market and the abolition of state imposed restrictions on the movement of goods and capital. Now the liberal nationalists, they supported that all kinds of whatever the restrictions were made, you know that during that period the areas were divided into kingdom, duchies and states, and each kingdom and duchies they had their own autocratic unit. They were ruled by different autocratic units. Now the merchants and traders they demanded that all kinds of hurdles in trade and business that should be removed, equal weight and measurement should be adopted, and number of currencies should be reduced. And during the 19th centuries, this was a strong demand of the emerging middle class. As you have read that by the rise of industries, the new middle class emerged, and by the emerging of new middle class, the demand for reducing different kinds of restrictions and reducing the standardizing weight and measures and reducing the number of currencies that increased during the century. Napoleon's administrative measures had created out countless small principalities, a confederation of 39 states. Each of these possessed its own currency and weights and measures. A merchant traveled, so class you can see that there were different principalities, different kingdoms the cheese. Even the Napoleon had conquered different principalities, and by joining 39 principalities, a confederation were formed. And but in that confederation, each principality or each unit, each territory had their own currency and weight and measure. So the demands were increased to reduce all these hurdles for the smooth movement of goods and for the development of trade. Such conditions were viewed as obstacles to economic exchange because why they had demanded, by the merchants and traders, they had demanded to remove all the obstacles and to remove the duties and levies which they had to pay at different principalities because they want to increase the trade and business. So in 1834, a custom union or Zollverein was formed. Now class, another big improvement that was made by the legal nationalists, that was in 1834. A custom union is the important development was made in mid-19th century, that was in 1834. A customs union, Zollverein, was formed. Why the Zollverein was formed? It was formed at the initiative of Prussia. Who had formed this? Who had taken initiative? It was formed by the initiative of Prussia and joined by most of German states, and this was formed by Prussia. Prussia had taken initiative in the formation of customs union called Zollverein, and that was formed. What was the purpose? The union abolished tariff barriers and reduced the number of currencies from over 30 to 2. The creation of a network of railways further stimulated mobility, harnessing economic interest and national unification. So class, now after the formation of Zollverein, what's happened? The union abolished tariff barriers. Whatever, as just I have explained you, that there were 39 in the German Confederation. There were 39 principalities, and in each principality they have their own administration, system of administration. And if a merchant had to travel through these principalities, he had to pay different border, different barrier duties. So the custom union that removed the barriers, that removed the duties, tariff barriers, and reduced the number of currencies. As in each territory they have their own currency, but the Zollverein had reduced the number of currency from 32 to 2. And now after that, the development of railway further stimulated the trade and business, and it developed. Thank you. Have a nice day.